Good morning, everyone. Sorry about the delay. Welcome to Assembly Judiciary. Welcome to those here in Carson City, as well as anyone in Las Vegas, and of course, those who will be participating by watching online for YouTube, through YouTube or our Nellis channel. Committee Secretary, will you please take the roll?
Assembly members Cole, Dahlia, Gonzalez, Gray, Hanson, Hardy, LaRue Hatch, Marzola, Moore, Nadeem, Orentlicker, Roth, Urick, Chair Miller.
Here, and please mark Assemblymember Gray present when he arrives. With that, just a few reminders, asking everyone to turn their electronics down. Also, that we will have two bills today. We also will have public comment at the end of today's meeting. Anyone speaking, if you're presenting a bill, we ask that you keep your comments to your presentation to 15 minutes. And if you're testifying or making public comment later, we ask that you keep your comments to 2 minutes each. Of course, everyone speaking today, we ask that you first state your name and that you spell it for the record. Today's member meeting ID number for anyone calling in to testify or make public comment, you can find it on the agenda that's posted on Nellis. The phone number is 888-475-4499, and today's meeting ID is 867-3012-4258. And with that, I will open up the hearing for our first bill. Today we have Assembly Bill 320, which revises provisions relating to criminal justice. And with that, Assemblyman, whenever you're ready, you and your co-presenter may introduce yourselves, and then please proceed.
Good morning, committee. Good morning, Chair. Jovan Jackson for the record. I'm proud to present Assembly Bill 320. This bill is important to me because I used to run a housing program, and I see many individuals.
Assemblymember, will you please introduce yourself, spell your name for the record, and then introduce your co-presenter and have him spell it as well? Thank you.
Jovan Jackson for the record. J-O-V as in Victor, A-N, last name Jackson, J-A-C-K-S-O-N, and my co-presenter is Nick Shepak.
Thank you, Chair and committee members. My name is Nick Shepak, N-I-C-K-S-H-E-P-A-C-K. I am the Nevada State Director of the Fines and Fees Justice Center, and I'm here to proudly present this piece of legislation with the Assembly member.
Jovan Jackson for the record. So I'm proud to present AB 320. This bill is very important to me because I used to run a housing program where I had to be in eviction court very often. I've seen many individuals be denied entry to court solely based off their attire. They may have shorts on, or maybe even having flip-flops on. And Las Vegas is a very unique city. It's one of the hottest cities in the United States, and it's very difficult to be in a 120-degree city, on the bus for 2 hours, going to court in a suit. So I thought this bill was important to introduce. So we'll walk through the bill. The Assembly Bill 320 focuses on fairness, rehabilitation, and reducing recidivism. First, it prohibits courts from denying defendants access to the courtroom solely based off their attire. If they do not have a suit or professional attire, they will not be denied entry to court. These dress codes impact individuals from low-income backgrounds who may lack the resources to afford formal attire. This creates barriers to accessing justice and undermines the principle that the court should be open to all, regardless of social status. The portion of the bill pertaining to bail has been removed entirely, and I'll have Mr. Shepak address that in his presentation. And then we also amended the portion with the pilot program. We replaced require with allow, so AB 320 will allow Division and Parole and Probation of the Department of Public Safety to establish a pilot program. And then finally, what this bill does, when a judge is considering sentencing, they have to include additional factors. They have to include if this person has a pathway to some type of treatment, mental health treatment, or if they have some type of pathway to employment. You may be familiar with when someone is arrested, you have friends and families that ask for a letter of character. So this would be an additional factor that they could include if the offender has a pathway to employment or a pathway to treatment. These changes are important because they address key issues in our criminal justice system by ensuring fair access to the courtrooms and providing support for reentry into society. We can create a more just and effective system that benefits all Nevadans. And with your permission, Chair, I would like to pass my presentation to Mr. Shepak.
Thank you, Chair and committee members. Good morning. It is a pleasure to be here with you today. I will walk you through the conceptual amendment to the bill and provide some additional background information. It is up on the screen. You should also have copies either on your desk or on Nellis. We maintain in the conceptual amendment all of Section 1, which is the court attire section. As Assemblymember Jackson stated, this is an economic and access to justice issue. We work with people who live in weekly motels, who have faced eviction or locked out of their house, and who go through great efforts to make it to court. Now, I want to be clear that this bill is not suggesting that individuals, if they have the ability, should not wear professional attire to court. Research shows that people fare better in court if they wear professional attire. However, that is just not an option for some people. My partner, our deputy director, sent in a statement. She is unable to be here today, but in June 2023, she was attending North Las Vegas Community Court as court watchers and witnessed multiple individuals being turned away and asked to leave the courtroom solely due to their attire. These individuals, many of whom had taken time off work, relied on public transportation, and made significant sacrifices and efforts to be there during the peak heat of the summer, were denied access solely based on their shoes and the length of their pants. Luckily, they were able to contact the Chief Justice, who intervened, and most of those people had not left the court yet and were able to access justice. But we need to break down any barrier that we can, one, for individuals to access justice, but also, if we are hoping to hold people accountable, they need to have their day in court, and that is very important. Also, as cities and counties increase laws that criminalize homelessness, we cannot expect that every individual will have access to the type of professional attire that we generally expect in court. Moving on to sections 2 and 3, that was the bail part of the bill. We are sorry to eliminate the section that I'm sure had all the best questions, but after talks with stakeholders, we have removed all of the references to bail from this legislation. Section 4, as mentioned, is the custody factors. After talks with people in the judicial system, it appears that these two items, which would be numbers 3 and 6, when a judge gets to establish somebody's custody level, that these factors are very much already taken into consideration. However, having an ununified system and such an enumerated list, we felt it was very important to have these individual items outlined in this statute. That way, everybody has the same assessment when they come before the judicial branch when custody is being assessed. And finally, Section 5, we are changing the shalls to mays. We have been in talks with nonprofits that are very excited to work with the division to implement these type of workforce programs within the Division of Parole and Probation. The shalls came with a fairly large physical note, but we believe we can achieve the same goals of having workforce development within the division through the maze. It'll just take, and this language that allows this will also encourage people to be in contact with the division if they wish to offer these services. It creates a path and an incentive for us to ensure that people on parole and probation have more access to the type of workforce training that can keep them on the straight and narrow and out of the criminal justice system. And with that, we will be happy to take any questions.
Thank you so much. I apologize. I have no technology right now, so I'll be working off of my phone. So if you see me I'm not just texting and uploading pictures. I'm actually trying to communicate with folks. So with that, we will go ahead and start. And I just wanted to make sure that I did hear Nick address and post the conceptual amendment up there, but everyone has a copy. Okay. Our first question will be from Assembly Woman LaRue Hatch.
Thank you, Chair. And thank you for bringing this bill this morning. So my question is about the pilot program for employment. I just wondered, could you speak to what are the current supports that are being offered for folks in regards to employment, and how can this supplement that?
Nick Shepak, for the record. The Division of Parole and Probation is here, and they could probably better speak to exactly what they offer. Right now, there are a variety of community supports that we are aware of, things like Hope for Prisoners for people on parole and other programs like this that are offered. I am not sure what is directly offered through the Division of Parole and Probation, and I'm also not sure if that differs from the north to the south. From my experience working with people on parole, these are mostly nonprofit community supports that are coming in from the outside. And the idea behind having a program housed within parole is that people will have that more direct access to the program.
I'm sorry, I missed the question. What was your question?
I just wondered if we are allowed to have the division come up and say
No,
what
your
they're-
question for the presenter.
Oh, it's what is currently being done in regards to employment opportunities for parole and probation, like supports.
And your response, Mr. Shepak?
My response, I can repeat it. Thank you, Chair, for the question. Nick Shepak, for the record. My response is, we are not 100% aware of everything that parole and probation offers. We know that there are many community groups, in my experience, that work with parolees, such as Hope for Prisoners. In the north, I have not personally experienced the parolees I'm working with going through workforce programming with inside the division.
Right.
The division has connected them. So I can only speak to what the community offers and not directly to what the division offers.
And according to the bill, it would be in response to, we're asking for those considerations to be made.
Correct.
Right.
Nick Shepak, for the record. This way that it streamlines the path from
Right.
prison to parole to program.
So, Assembly Member, are you asking the question about which services are provided or which services are considered when
So
assigning parole or probation?
I was asking what services are being provided because they want to establish a pilot program, and so I just wondered how this would supplement what is already being offered.
I think we'll wait on that.
Okay,
We
no worries.
can take that offline, okay? Next question will be from Assembly Member Roth.
Thank you so much, Chair, and thank you for the presentation this morning. My question is in regards to Section 4, subsection 6, that a judge reviewing the custodial status of a person shall consider the status and history of participation in a program of substance use disorder treatment or mental health treatment. Just want to get at the intent of that. For a lot of people, recovery is not a linear track, and so I see this kind of as a double-edged sword. If there has been any engagement with programs where they've walked away or left, and so how do you anticipate that kind of playing into this?
Jovan Jackson, for the record. So the original intent, and I'll be open to rewording or amending it. But the original intent is, say if someone is arrested, locked up, if they take the pathway to treatment, or if they join some type of pathway to employment, some type of job readiness program, that will be considered as a factor when having their sentence. So basically, say if someone is having a mental breakdown, they're arrested. If this person the original intent had nothing to do with past mental health treatment. The original intent was if this person becomes incarcerated and they sign up for mental health services, that could be a consideration, just like how I would say like mental health court is used.
Thank you, Chair. So is this, I guess I'm just reading that this is for reviews of custody status, bail hearings, and it sounds like what you're getting at is sentencings. So I just want to make sure I'm understanding the intent. That is this for sentencings or is this for initial bail hearings?
Jovan Jackson for the record. So yes, there's a NSRS where the factors of considering sentencing are considered. So it will include these factors in that NRS code that pertains to sentencing, and I would defer to Mr. Shepak.
Nick Sheepak for the record. There does appear to be a little confusion on this section because this NRS is indeed for custody hearings, for bail hearings. I shared your concern about the possibility of a double-edged sword, and I think that this section of the bill deserves further conversation. I think the intent is clear that we want to outline that people who are actively seeking services get that taken into consideration. So I think that there's probably a little work that needs to be done on that section.
One moment, please. All right, our next question will be from Assemblyman Urick.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for the presentation. And let me just start by saying I fully, under Section 1, appreciate what I believe the intent is to give defendants, ensure they have access to their own proceedings. My question is on Section 1, though, and if you can clarify for me, I'm looking at a couple. It looks like your amendment that I see up there that I have in front of me, it says it's maintaining Section 1, the courtroom attire as is, but I also see another conceptual amendment that is deleting Section 1 and basically substituting with a request for courts to consider doing this. And so, obviously, under Article 3, Section 1 of our Constitution, there's a separation of powers that inherently gives courts the ability to manage their own courtroom proceedings, including decorum and whatnot. My concern is, does this section, if your intent is to leave it as it is presented in the original bill and on this conceptual amendment, is there a concern that we might be overstepping our bounds in this legislative branch by directing a court to and infringing on their ability to manage their own affairs?
Nick Sheepak for the record. Thank you so much for the question, and I apologize for not addressing this right at the start. Those concerns do exist. We are working on an amendment with the courts of limited jurisdiction to address this issue. The amendment as proposed was not language that the Assembly member was ready to accept. So that is a work in progress. But yes, those are the concerns of the judicial branch, and we share them.
Would you like to respond? If you'd like for me to. Yes. Okay, we'll have Ms. O'Krent, our legal, respond, please.
Carly O'Krent for the record. There is a large body of jurisprudence surrounding the court's ability to manage its own affairs, and it sounds like Nick plans to work with them, but Jonathan McCormick and some other folks have been in here testifying to that effect as well. I'll note that you will find various provisions in NRS that do require the court to take various actions at certain times, and so it's not unprecedented to have language like the language that's been included in this bill, and I'm happy to follow up as needed.
Thank you. Our next question will be from Assemblymember Cole.
Good morning. Thank you very much for the presentation. My question follows along my colleague's question. My thought process here is on that section 1, perhaps you might consider a modification that, would say, although defendants are encouraged to wear professional attire and footwear, like you said, they actually do have better outcomes at times. And then add in your language, but then also maybe have a comment that it should still be reasonable, because I can just imagine some people, Vegas is Vegas, right? And so some people might come in underwear. You just don't know. So maybe have like a bottom tier limit, and it has to be reasonable, and the judge still retains discretion if it is unreasonable.
Nick Shebeck for the record, and thank you so much, Assemblymember Cole, for that. I believe that question. I believe those are the things we're trying to work out with the judges of limited jurisdiction to make sure that judges' discretion isn't completely taken away, while we also ensure that people who can come to court regardless of their economic and social status.
And I would just like to note that there are people that come in what could be considered underwear, or night clothes, pajamas and such. I've spent time in the courtrooms, and sometimes it's not by choice that people are dressed in a way that we have abilities not to dress in. I've seen people come in slippers and nightgowns and not having what we would consider adequate undergarments on, but I also know that it's important to consider where people are, and that for the majority of people, they do their best. And we have people that are homeless or living in cars and all types of situations. And so I just think that we need to be mindful of that. But again, that people are still being responsible by showing up to court and doing what's required of them. With that, are there any additional questions? Assemblywoman Hanson.
Thank you, Chair. And thank you for being here today. I certainly do understand the intent, and I am sympathetic. I do, though, have I have concerns about us getting in the third into the judiciary branches laying on this. So we'll wait to see how that plays out. But I'm just curious. I know that I'm aware of resources in the community, and having grown up as an at-risk kid, moved 17 times in 18 years, and to a certain degree understand the limits of financial resources. I try to juggle that with the historical kind of significance of what the judiciary represents when we go to court, and trying to maintain a decorum, but also understand that the people have these limited resources. So I am aware that in the community there are places where people can donate clothing, and they provide clothing for people in these instances. I'm just curious, what kind of outreach are you aware of with those having to go to court? Are they aware of these resources? Maybe some courts maybe work with the community resources to be able to provide some clothing for individuals?
Jovan Jackson for the record. I will say, even if these individuals are aware of these resources, there are a lot of boundaries just to get to these resources. If you do not have a car, if you do not have the funds for Uber, getting to resources in Clark County could be very difficult and time consuming, especially when you already have a issued court date. Most evictions are time based. So the individuals just may not have the time, or they may not know about the resources, but it is a boundary in representing themselves. And I would love for the courts to maybe have those resources on site for those individuals, just so we can make justice more accessible. But I will defer to Mr. Shepak.
Nick Shebeck for the record, and there's a few things I will add. That first, and thank you so much for the question, Assemblymember Hanson. But first, I would say our understanding of the history of the court's decorum is unique and much greater than a lot of the general public. A lot of the individuals we're talking about are entering a courtroom for the first time, and maybe, hopefully, only time in their life because they are facing something like an eviction or a small petty offense, and their understanding of what is normal inside a courtroom may be vastly different than ours. Secondly, I've seen it as a huge gap in resources. I come from a social work background, and it's actually been a dream of mine to have like a clothing van similar to what they do for there's an organization up here in the north that helps women who are looking for jobs. They don't have something like that for court. I've wanted to park something outside the courthouses in Reno and ensure that people can come in, and we'll switch them out into suits real quick because I see it as a huge gap in services, and I know that the outcomes are, for better or worse, if you can afford the nice suit and tie, statistically you do better in court. However, we need to meet people where they're at, and again, if we're going to pass these homeless ordinances, which are bipartisan across the state, we can't expect those individuals to them showing up is almost amazing. The statistics for them showing up is pretty low, so the ones who do really, really have put forth an effort, and we need to allow them to have their day in court.
Our next question is from Assemblywoman Moore.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for your presentation. I didn't realize that you needed to wear professional attire, that was a requirement when you go to court. What happens to folks when they get turned away because they're not wearing the proper attire when they show up?
Nick Sheepak for the record. Let me start by saying this isn't a major problem. We are not seeing a bunch of judges turn away large numbers of people. In fact, there are some judges that are, actively trying to ensure that everyone within their entire courthouse gets seen. It does happen, though. Hopefully, and usually what would happen is an individual is going to have their court date rescheduled. Possibly, we've seen across the country where being turned away, especially if it is by security and not a judge, that results in like a failure to appear. Right, and we see this is an issue across the country. I'd be happy to share. There was an article in the Marshall Project that runs through states across the country and how this issue has played out there. And so it depends is kind of the answer. Usually you will have your court date rescheduled, which if it's on a Wednesday in the middle of the day, that's another day of work that you're going to have to miss. Worst case scenario, though, if you're turned away at, say, the front of the building, that can be considered a failure to appear. I don't believe we're seeing that happen a lot, but it is quite possible.
Jovan Jackson for the record. So I have personally been not denied entry to court, and the way that I was denied is that I wouldn't even be able to access the judge to reschedule. So I would have been a no-show if I wasn't able to go to the trunk of my car and grab some jeans. So yeah, the bailiff denied me complete entry to the court. So I would have been considered a no-show.
Thank you, Chair. I have a follow-up to this question. Are you aware if other states also make it so folks who are not wearing formal attire are able to still go to court and not be turned away?
Jovan Jackson for the record. I'm not familiar with other states, but I did get a letter from Fernley, Nevada, and they say, hey, folks could come in with greasy shirts. We don't care. People could come in work clothes. We don't care. There is certain municipalities here that are, less strict about clothing, but I'm not sure about other states.
Nick Sheepak for the record. I'd be happy, off the top of my head, I can't tell you which states have either court rules or laws that address this directly, but I'd be happy to provide that information to the committee.
Thank you so much. I believe with that, Assemblywoman Gonzalez, we got your question? Oh, well, then, next question from Assemblywoman Gonzalez.
Thank you. And thank you so much for bringing this issue forward. I definitely agree with the intent here. And sorry if I missed this. So I know that we've been having a lot of conversation about defendants, but would this apply to everybody going to court, witnesses, victims, stuff like that?
Nick Shepak, for the record, as currently written, it applies to defendants. Through my research, I have seen people address witnesses, and they often will make exceptions for witnesses, almost always for victims. But I've read stories of individuals coming to see maybe a parent court date where they were inappropriately dressed, right? So I think there's room for discussion there. But the most important individual to show up is the defendant because of the consequences of missing a court date for that individual. So that is what this tries to address as written.
Thank you so much. And I think we all understand by the different position or reason you're in the courtroom, we can have different expectations. Obviously, staff and attorneys and such, there's a professional obligation and requirement, but, and I understand that for the most part, witnesses are coached beforehand, so there would be time with resources, but we also have situations where court it's just that one day appearance. You know, if I'm coming in for eviction court, I'm just coming in for that one day. And I wasn't necessarily coached by representation, so thank you for that. I don't see any additional questions at this point, so I will open it up for testimony. So we will start here in Carson City. Again, anyone wishing to make testimony in support of Assembly Bill 320, I ask that you keep your comments to 2 minutes each. Please state your name and spell it for the record. And whenever you are ready, please proceed.
Good morning, committee and chair. My name is Kayla Maese, spelled Kaylah. Last name is Maese. I am a civil rights analyst at the ACLU of Nevada, and we want to thank Assemblymember Jackson for bringing forth practical policy. It's been said a lot today. It's really important to meet people where they're at, and that's exactly what the intent of this bill is. So we're very happy that it was brought forward and the ACLU supports. Thank you.
Thank you.
Angela Knott from the Washoe County Public Defender's Office, Angela Knott. I just wanted to briefly share 2 situations that we had in Washoe County involving defendants in attire. One of them that still sticks close to me is I had a guy who was out on bail, but he was suffering mental health issues pretty bad. But we got him into treatment. But he had to go on his own from treatment to the shelter to the court, which is not easy to do. They're not right next to each other. He showed up, it was sentencing, and he did his drug testing, he cleared, but he showed up in shorts and a t-shirt and bad shoes. And the judge turned him away, told him he would not be sentenced right then and there, and had to go back to the shelter and change his clothes. He walked 2 miles back to the shelter and 2 miles back and made it within 15 minutes before the judge hit his gavel. We were able to get him probation and continue treatment, but what he had to go through just to get to that point and to be turned away just because of what he was wearing, I don't think should ever happen again. And the only other instance, it wasn't that extreme, but had a sentencing, the guy ran in from work. He had been working the graveyard shift. He had to do a check-in with the judge. He showed up in his work clothes. He worked on cars, so he was kind of covered. And while the judge went ahead with our hearing, he made comments to the individual about his clothing attire and wanted him to change that for the future. I found it to just be inappropriate because this is someone who ran over from work to make sure he was in compliance. I think this bill will help just even the playing field for some of these defendants who just need a little extra help. Thank you.
Thank you, committee. Thank you, Chair. Harrison Epstein, legal extern with the Clark County Public Defender's Office, Harrison Epstein. AB 320, quite simply, is good policy. It helps guarantee access for all to the legal system. For indigent clients, getting to court can be its own battle, as you've heard. Our clients are often working jobs where getting time off to go to court is its own challenge. They may be navigating public transit or walking in the early morning to be there when Clark County's Regional Justice Center opens its doors at 7 a.m. With the cost of goods and housing climbing as well, many of our clients do not have the spare funds for a luxury. And yes, having professional attire, as it's written, is a luxury. Regardless of whether they can afford a suit, though, limiting access to our justice system based purely on attire is wrong. Nobody should be punished or expelled from court, as you heard our counterpart from Washoe County describe, purely because of their clothes. This is common sense legislation to make sure that everyone gets their day in court without any additional and unnecessary barriers. Thank you.
My name is Aisha Goins, AESHAGOINS, and I am testifying as the first vice president of the Las Vegas chapter of the NAACP 1111. I believe that we want justice for all. I think that we all just kind of feel that way. And in order to do that, it takes common sense legislation like this for people to just be seen as a person. As the longest civil rights organization and as the first vice president, I just want to thank the presenter for bringing this bill, just because of the importance of letting people be seen. It's unfortunate that we're still in a place where we have to continue to bring legislation to say, treat people like people, treat people like people, treat people like people. But the reality of it is, when someone comes to the justice court to receive justice, they've already honored the system. That should be enough. To then ask someone to comply and to chastise them because they can't comply takes away their own humanity. And so as the first vice president of the Las Vegas 1111 chapter of the NAACP, I strongly support this bill. Thank you.
Good morning, Chair, members of the committee. My name is Serena Kasama with Carrera, Nevada, speaking today on behalf of Aladdin Bail Bonds. With the conceptual amendment that was submitted by the bill sponsor, we are in support of this bill. We appreciate him working with us on some of our language concerns regarding bail, and we appreciate his intent, and we think he's doing good work in the space. Thank you.
Not seeing anyone else here in Carson City. Is there anyone in Las Vegas? I don't believe anyone's in Las Vegas. So, broadcasting, will you open the lines, please?
If you would like to testify in support of Assembly Bill 320, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Again, if you would like to testify in support of Assembly Bill 320, please press star 9 now.
Hello, good morning. My name is Yesenia Moya, Yesenia Moya. I'm here to talk in support of AB 320. When someone is denied entry into a courtroom because of their clothing, they're effectively denied justice. Courtrooms are meant to be places where every person has the right to defend themselves, participate in their case, and be heard. Yet for many of us, particularly those experiencing poverty, homelessness, or systemic barriers, something as simple as what we're wearing becomes an obstacle to our due process. I have gone to court with family or loved ones who showed up in shorts and a t-shirt and were turned away, which has resulted in warrants, failure to appear, suspended licenses, additional fees, and even incarceration. These consequences don't reflect justice, they reflect systemic exclusion. The burden of buying clothing just for your day in court is a huge deterrent from even appearing. I have seen folks be remanded into custody because to the court they skipped bail, even though they were turned away at the door. I imagine a person who has taken time off work, arranged childcare, trying to find transportation, only to be turned away because their attire does not meet an arbitrary standard. The impact of these denials is not felt equally. Those with financial means can purchase court-appropriate clothing, while those of us struggling to meet basic needs often can't. Black, Indigenous, and other people of color who already face disproportionate criminalization are more likely to be subjected to these just codes, reinforcing racial inequities in our system. Courts should not punish people for being poor. They should not shut people out of proceedings that determine our future. Everyone deserves the right to show up, be present, and advocate for ourselves regardless of what we're wearing. Ensuring that no one is turned away from court due to our clothing is a necessary step towards making our legal system more just, accessible, and fair. Thank you for your time and consideration, and thank you for the bill presenters.
Thank you. Next caller.
Very good morning, Chair Miller and members of the committee. My name is Matthew Wilkie, for the record, Wilkie. Calling in support. For respect for your time, I'll just say ditto to those testimony and support. Thank you for your time. Have a great day.
Thank you. Next caller.
Good morning, Chairwoman Miller, member of the committee. My name is Chandler Cooks, ChandlerCooks. I'm here in strong support of AB 320 because it's time we stop asking individuals to rebuild their lives while withholding tools that they need to succeed. Reentry shouldn't feel like a revolving door. Yet for too many Nevadans leaving incarceration, that's exactly what it becomes. And without meaningful employment opportunities, they face a system that expects them to succeed but offers no clear path forward. That AB 320 changes that. In Section 6, the bill creates a pilot employment program for parolees and probationers. And this is a solution that's not just about jobs, but about dignity, self-sufficiency, and breaking the cycle of incarceration. But the reality is good intentions won't be enough. For the program to succeed, it must be built on collaboration, right, with the right partners at the table. Organizations such as the Urban Chamber of Commerce, right, are essential to this effort, with deep ties to local businesses and expertise in supporting those underserved communities. They're uniquely positioned to connect participants to the real job opportunities, and creating job readiness pipeline, demands that targeted investment in mentorship, skills, and development. But this bill, it truly strengthens Nevada's workforce, families, and communities. And when we invest in employment support for justice-involved individuals, we're not just reducing recidivism, we're creating taxpayers, entrepreneurs, and role models. And we can't afford to let talent go untapped or allow individuals to return to a life that they're trying to leave behind. So thank you to Assemblyman Jackson for giving the people a fighting chance. And I urge this committee to support AB 320 and ensure it's not just well-intentioned, but well-funded, well-supported, and transformative. Thank you.
Thank you. Next caller.
If you have recently joined and would like to testify in support of Assembly Bill 320, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Chair, there are no other callers wishing to testify in support at this time.
Okay, thank you. Then I will open it up for opposition testimony, beginning here in Carson City.
Thank you, Chair Miller, members of the Assembly Judiciary Committee. My name is John Jones, and I'm here on behalf of the Nevada District Attorneys Association. We are opposed to AB 320. I'll note that we have spoken with Mr. Shepak, and I thought we were going to stay out, but then we just realized that Section 4 is still in the bill. That section does deal with bail, and so we have concerns about that language. So we're going to continue to work with Mr. Shepak and Assemblymember Jackson on that language. Thank you.
So, Mr. Jones, your only concern is the what's written regarding the bail.
John Jones on behalf of the Nevada District Attorneys Association. Yes, that is correct.
Okay, thank you. Because I do believe that was the intention to make sure that's fully removed out of the bill. So, okay, thanks.
Good morning, Chair and members of the Judiciary Committee. My name is Keith Lee, Keithle, and I'm here today on behalf of the Nevada Judges Limited Jurisdiction, as you know, are the Justices of the Peace and Muni Court judges. We are in opposition to Section 1 of 320 as it violates the separation of powers clause. Excuse me. And I've discussed this with the sponsor and Mr. Shepak and others from working on trying to resolve our issues. And excuse me, and I'll be glad to continue to do so. And we'll look forward to working with everybody.
Thank you so much. Is there anyone else here in Carson wishing to make opposition testimony? Not seeing anyone here or in Las Vegas broadcasting. Will you open the lines, please?
If you would like to testify in opposition to Assembly Bill 320, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Caller with the last 3 digits, 051. You are unmuted on our end and may begin.
Barry Johnston, BerryJohnston, Las Vegas. I am opposed to Section 2, which continues Nevada's dangerous trend, making life easier for criminals while making life harder for law-abiding citizens, and believe Section 3 has no accountability function to the program to make sure parole probationers are actually getting this help. This can just turn into another scam, not actually helping these people and just washing money through progressive organizations. It's crazy because no one's talking about Section 2. Our state has a crime wave, and the legislature caused it. In 2019, lawmakers raised the felony threshold from $650 to $1,200, effectively giving criminals a free pass to steal up to $1,200 with little consequence. The result, 39% surge in drugstore crimes. Businesses are closing. The legislature wants to fund grocery stores and crime in areas of where this crime is committed.
Sir, can you speak closer to the, Mr. Johnson, can you speak closer to the bill? Section 2 was removed per amendment. That's why no one was responding to it, but can you?
Oh, well, that's fantastic.
Okay, but you're still in opposition, right,
Has
sir?
Section 2 been moved to a separate bill?
Not that I'm aware of.
Or was it just completely whacked altogether?
It was completely removed, Section 2 and Section 3 from the bill per the conceptual amendment.
Okay, wonderful. Great job. Thank you for removing that. That's terrible. You guys are making crime like so bad we can't even go to the grocery store. Thank you.
Okay, so but we will keep your testimony in opposition, or are you in support now that we removed it?
So Section 2 and Section 3 have been completely removed, and this is just about closed?
Yes, in a way.
Was it not updated on Nellis?
Correct, because the amendment came in late last night, but it will be updated on Nellis.
Oh. Thank you, Ms. Miller. I appreciate you being kind.
Thank you so much. Next caller.
If you have recently joined and would like to testify in opposition to Assembly Bill 320, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Chair, there are no other callers wishing to testify in opposition at this time.
Thank you so much. I will open it up for neutral testimony.
Good morning, Chair, members of the committee. I am Tamara Jackson, Tamrah Jackson, the Department of Public Safety Parole and Probation Chief. We are providing neutral testimony for AB 320. And with the conceptual amended language, we would review our fiscal note and we'll look at removing it with that changed language. As provided in subsection 5, or Section 5, subsection 2, the division currently does collaborate with several public and private partners to include nonprofit organizations to address employment, training, and job readiness for our probationers and parolees. Some of these groups include DETR, Employ Nevada, Job Connect, TMCC, multiple temporary employment agencies, FIT, the Foundation for an Independent Tomorrow, Nevada Partners, Urban League, Workforce Connections, and Hope for Prisoners. Many of these groups are invited into our offices to provide services, and we also provide referrals out. Parole and Probation remains dedicated to providing resources for supervised individuals to find success through training, development, and employment, whether provided by our division or through collaborating with public and private partners. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else wishing to make neutral testimony here in Carson? Broadcasting, will you open the lines, please?
If you would like to testify in neutral for Assembly Bill 320, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Chair, there are no callers wishing to testify in neutral at this time.
Thank you. Then I'll go ahead and welcome the bill presenters back up for any final words.
Jovan Jackson for the record. I just want to say, like, this bill is not for individuals who want to protest in court, who want to wear just crazy things in court. This bill is intended for people that truly just do not have the means to have the right attire for court. So we're not trying to, take discretion away from the courts. We're just trying to protect people. And I think that's the main intent of the attire part. And then, after speaking to Mr. Jones and to address Assembly Members Roth concern, we are just going to strike out Section 4 completely and focus on the pilot program and the attire. I really do feel like the pilot program could still achieve other parts of the bill. So that's in my conclusion. I'll pass it to Mr. Sheepak.
Thank you. I just briefly want to thank everyone here for the fantastic questions, for listening to the presentation, and for working with us to address what is a real issue in our court systems. Fines and Fees Justice Center believes deeply in access to justice. We believe this bill helps to achieve that without any risk to danger when you go shopping at the grocery store. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you so much. And with that, I will go ahead and close the hearing on Assembly Bill 320. Just want to make a brief announcement that apparently Zoom is moving data centers today. And so we may have some challenges throughout the day, whichever committees you're joining or participating in. So just to be aware if we have some technical difficulties with Zoom, or my laptop, or Assemblymember Delia's chair. So, with that, I think we can go ahead and continue. I will open the hearing on our next bill. It's like a live sketch show up here this morning. So, Assembly Bill 381. It revises provisions relating to animals. And so I will give Assembly Member and her co-presenters a few moments to get settled. And then, of course, introduce yourselves and proceed when you are ready.
Good morning, Chair Miller and members of the Judiciary Committee. My name is Melissa Hardy, and I'm the Assemblywoman representing District 22 in Henderson and South Las Vegas. I'm grateful for the opportunity to be here today to present this very special bill. With me today, I have Rebecca Goff from the Humane World for Animals and Mr. John Jones from the Clark County District Attorney's Office. And on Zoom, I have Agnes Botello from the Clark County DA as well. So I'm just going to give some remarks, and then I will have my presenters go through the sections of the bill and the amendments. Justice for Reba. That was the message so many of us heard loudly and clearly in July of 2024, after a bulldog was trapped in a plastic bin with the lid taped shut and left behind in a grocery store dumpster. Amazingly, Reba was rescued, but sadly the heat stroke was too much for her to overcome, and she did not make it. 2 people were eventually arrested for what happened to Reba. However, the penalties didn't fit the crime, according to the Clark County District Attorney. He implored the legislature to act and change the laws in our state to stiffen the penalties for animal abuse. And that is what we have done with Assembly Bill 381. This bill, affectionately referred to as Reba's Law, obviously cannot bring her back or change the circumstances of what happened to this sweet, innocent animal and many others that unfortunately suffer as she did. But it can protect other animals throughout the state in the future. As a fierce advocate for animal abuse and welfare, I'm honored to carry this bill and implore both sides of the aisle to work together to protect innocent lives, those that don't have a voice and can't protect themselves, by supporting AB 381. We must make sure heinous and willful acts of abuse, neglect, and harm carry stiff penalties and consequences. While no abuse or neglect in any form should be committed or tolerated, this bill specifically addresses those who knowingly and willfully commit such acts, and it establishes harsher penalties when a death occurs from such actions. I would now like to turn it over to Ms. Goff, and she will go through sections 2 and 3 of the bill, and then Mr. Jones will go through the remaining sections. Thank you. Sorry, Melissa Hardy, Ms. Goff has sections 3 and 5.
Good morning. My name is Rebecca Goff, R-E-B-E-C-C-A, G as in girl, O, F as in Frank, F as in Frank, and I'm the Nevada State Director for Humane World for Animals, formerly known as the Humane Society of the United States. So I will be presenting sections 3 and 5. And so section 3, paragraph 4, removes the authority of the court to have an animal sold at auction and replaces continued in the care of with forfeited. Abused and neglected animals deserve to receive the medical and other attention they need to stop the suffering and survive, and to eventually find a new home. They are more than property to be sold to the highest bidder. Forfeiture is important because the seizing agency eventually needs the legal authority to transfer ownership to the animal to a shelter, rescue, or new home. Part 6 of Section 3 removes the exemption for any animal which is located on land being employed for the agricultural use as defined in NRS 361A.030. There's no reason to remove protections of an animal simply based on the location of where that animal is. Those animals deserve protection too. In Section 5, paragraph 2B2, increases penalties for a person who totally disables or kills a police dog. Police dogs are trained and devoted to the purpose of keeping our communities safe, and they must often work in dangerous circumstances. We owe them a strong law to hopefully keep them safe from harm. And apologies, I also have one piece on Section 7. Section 7.2 provides that abandoned animals are forfeited to the county, city, or other local governmental agency. A small but important change so that an agency may transfer ownership of an animal to a rescue, shelter, or home, not simply change custody. It's critical to establish ownership in order to determine authority and responsibility of the animal. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair Miller, members of the Assembly Judiciary Committee. My name is John Jones, John-Jones, and I'm here on behalf of both the Nevada District Attorneys Association and the Clark County District Attorney's Office. I am happy to be here this morning to assist Assemblywoman Hardy and Ms. Goff in presenting to you AB 381. As the Assembly member indicated, we have had several high-profile instances of animal cruelty throughout this state. And when the public hears about the potential penalties for some of these crimes, we are met with outrage, to be frank. And late last year, Clark County District Attorney Steve Wolfson went on television and said that the legislature should look at increasing penalties for specific instances of animal cruelty. And the first phone call we received after that went public was from Assemblymember Hardy, asking what she could do to help. And we really appreciate her efforts in this space. Mr. Wolfson did want me to indicate to you all that he sends his apologies for not being here today, but he does support this bill, and he asked me to both thank Assemblymember Hardy for sponsoring the bill, and he also asked me to urge this committee to pass it. So I'm going to go through the criminal pieces of this bill, starting a little out of order with Section 4. So for those of you following along with the bill, it's on page 4, lines 28 to 32. Now, this part I'm referencing right now, we're not making changes to, but I think in order to kind of understand what we're doing throughout the rest of the bill, we need to start here. And so Section 1, Sub A of NRS 574-100 says, a person shall not torture or unjustifiably maim, mutilate, or kill either an animal kept for companionship or pleasure or any cat or dog. So I want to start off with two main points. One is we are not talking about farm animals. We are not talking about wild animals here. We are essentially talking about pets. So a cat, a dog, or any animal that is kept for companionship or pleasure. The second point I want to make is that when we're talking about felony treatment of any type of act, those are the classes of animals that we're dealing with respect to this bill. Now, there are other NRSs that deal with other animals. But today, we're focused on pets. So currently, the punishment structure for animal cruelty that is both willful and malicious is a category D felony punished by by a range of 1 to 4 years in the Nevada Department of Corrections. So if you injure an animal, the punishment is 1 to 4 years in the Nevada Department of Correction. If you kill an animal, the punishment is between 1 to 4 years in the Nevada Department of Correction. There is not a big range there to punish what is arguably an extreme range of conduct. So what we're trying to do with this bill is to tier the penalties based on both the intent of the person when they're engaged in the act and whether or not the animal is killed. So now I want to turn to page 6 of section 4, line 18. This is where we get to the bulk of the criminal penalties changes with respect to this bill. Our proposal is to increase the penalty for willful and malicious acts against a cat or dog or an animal kept for companionship or pleasure to a Category C felony. Willful and malicious acts would be a Category C felony. That's punishable by between 1 and 5 years in the Nevada Department of Corrections. I'll note, though, we're also asking that if an animal dies due to somebody's willful and malicious act, the potential punishment would increase to between 1 and 10 years in the Nevada Department of Correction. And the most important point I can make regarding these penalties is that they are for willful and malicious acts. In other words, somebody intended to do this act, and they did so with the intent to cause harm, an evil wish, a desire to injure. We are not talking about recklessness. We are not talking about mistakes or accidents. We are talking about when somebody injures an animal and they have the intent to injure that animal. It's our opinion that this is conduct worthy of enhanced penalties. Now, I have had conversations with the Public Defender's Office, and we are willing to work with them on what these penalties should look like. We are happy to have that discussion. After this hearing today, we'll continue to meet with them to see if we can come to some sort of agreement as to what these penalties should look like. But that's why we went with a 1 to 5 and a 1 to 10. I'll also note that these are probationable. The exact sentence that a defendant receives would be up to a judge. And if a judge determines that probation is appropriate, a judge can give probation. But at least the option of these tiered offenses and these enhanced penalties provide us more space in terms to appropriately punish people who engage in these willful and malicious acts. Further, moving down section 4, it increases the penalties when acts of cruelty are committed to threaten, intimidate, or terrorize another person. Believe it or not, especially in domestic violence situations, we see pets being abused because that increases exponentially the emotional trauma that is experienced by the victim. We feel that in these instances, increased penalties should apply. The final change in Section 4 of AB 381 adds a new punishment level in statute, one that does not currently exist. It's for those who knowingly or recklessly torture, maim, mutilate, or kill a cat or dog. This is a lower standard than willful and malicious. It's somebody who does not necessarily have intent to harm the animal, but they're engaged in actions with a wanton disregard for their consequences. In other words, they know their actions are dangerous. It would be clear to anybody that their actions are dangerous, but they engage in that act anyway. We're asking that knowing or reckless conduct that leads to the torture, maiming, or killing of an animal be punished at a Category D felony. We are not asking for enhanced penalties if the animal dies in this instance. We think the Category D felony is appropriate because, remember, in this instance, the person does not have necessarily the intent to harm the animal. They're just engaged in reckless conduct. I'll point out, this is not addressed by the bill, that negligent conduct that leads to the torturing, maiming, or injuring of an animal would still remain a misdemeanor. Section 5 of the bill on pages 7 and 8 increases penalties to the police animal cruelty statute. It increases them consistent with what we're doing in Section 4. So if a police animal dies as a result of somebody's conduct, it would be punishable by a Category B felony, 1 to 10, and in other instances would be a C felony, 1 to 5. Lastly, I want to end with the changes in Sections 1 and 2. We have instances where individuals are standing around and watching acts of cruelty against animals. They know what's going on. It's clear that they know what's going on. Sometimes it's on surveillance video, but they do nothing to stop it. So what Section 1 does is it defines two words, allows and permits, for purposes of the animal cruelty statute. Now, I'll note the word permits is already in our animal cruelty statute, but it is not defined. So we're defining what the word permits means, and we're also adding the word allow and defining it as well. These definitions are borrowed from other spots in the NRS. So we're trying to be as consistent as we can in this statute as we are in other parts of the NRS. Now, our intent is not to make every person who witnesses an act of animal cruelty mandatory reporters. I've had conversations with the public defender, and I do understand their argument. If you're walking along the street and you see somebody engaged in that, you have no connection to it whatsoever. Our intent is not to impart criminal liability if you continue on your way. But there are people who have a connection to the incident and are standing there watching it. The best example we can give is somebody who is filming the animal abuse. They are clearly allowing it to go on. And it's not a bystander filming, it's somebody who's involved. Their role in that is filming it. So we want to make clear in that instance, they are subject to criminal liability as well. But again, I am willing, and I know Assemblymember Hardy is as well, to work with the public defenders to hone this language to make sure we're not being overly broad. With that, having gone through our sections of the bill, I do have one more presenter. It's Agnes Botello. Ms. Botello is a Chief Deputy DA in the Clark County DA's office, and she is our lead prosecutor of a team of prosecutors who handles these cases with our office. So, Chair, with your permission, I'd like to turn it to Ms. Botello.
Yes, please, thank you. And I believe you did hear my comment about our Zoom may or may be acting a little funny today, so I'm glad we have you while we do. Please proceed.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you very much for having and allowing me to speak with you about this bill. As Mr. George said, my name is Agnes and
I spoke too soon. It's cutting in and out, but for now, just keep trying. I think I'm not sure, I did just announce right before I opened this hearing that Zoom is moving, so there's some, we may have some difficulties today, but just continue to try. We can be patient right now.
Thank you so much. My name is Agnes Botello, Agnes Botelho. And as Mr. Jones indicated, I am a Chief Deputy District Attorney at the Clark County District Attorney's Office, and I oversee our Animal Abuse and Cruelty Unit. In the last 2 years, I've handled some of the most egregious animal abuse cases in Clark County, and it is those cases and the public outcry that followed that caused my office to ask for and support this bill. This bill is necessary for 2 reasons. The first is, as Clark County District Attorney Steve Wolfson said, The punishment should fit the crime, such that when a case comes along, as they have recently, where the conduct of the individual or individuals is so heinous and deprived that my office needs the ability to ask a judge for a more serious punishment than the existing 1 to 4 years in prison. This bill does just that. In the most serious and extreme cases of animal cruelty and animal abuse, where the companion animal or the police animal is killed, so the worst of the worst, we can ask for a punishment that better fits the crime, which is up to 1 to 10 years in prison. Secondly, the cases that have been covered by the media and subsequently the introduction of this bill have raised public awareness for animal cruelty, and the residents of Clark County and Nevada have spoken loud and clear. These cases need to be taken seriously, and the individuals responsible need to be better held accountable. I believe the rise in public awareness will have a deterrent effect. Often, the individuals who are charged with animal abuse and cruelty have it's not that serious kind of demeanor. It's just a cat, it's just a dog, it's just a pet. I didn't harm or kill a human being. This bill and the increase in potential punishments will send the message that these crimes against innocent animals are serious and important and will be treated as such by the public, lawmakers, and the courts, and hopefully deter this terrible behavior that was once considered not that big of a deal. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, and we are open for questions.
Great, thank you. Our first question will be from Assemblymember LaRue Hatch.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for bringing this today. I think you touched on my question. I had concerns about Section 1 especially, and I just want to get clear, there is hopefully an amendment coming. So like if I am in my backyard and I hear yiping in my neighbor's yard, if I don't call 911, I am not going to be charged with cruelty to an animal. Is that the intention?
Thank you, John Jones, on behalf of the Nevada District Attorneys Association. That is correct. That is not our intention. But we have, as I indicated, had instances where people were on video standing around watching it as somebody else engages in the animal, and that's what abuse, and that's what we're trying to get at. So we are willing to work with the public defenders to hone that language down to make clear that that's what we're at and not being overly broad.
Thanks so much. Our next question is from Assemblymember Dahlia.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for the presentation. I just have a question about just to currently, to situate where we are right now. How often are you pursuing, based on my understanding, it was 4 years or 5 years, depending on the outcome for the animal, is the current maximum. How often are you pursuing that maximum? Thank you.
John Jones, on behalf of the Nevada District Attorneys Association, I'm going to send that down to Ms. Botello if I could, but first, there's just one penalty. There's no difference between, depending on the outcome. One penalty, 1 to 4, for any willful and malicious act of animal cruelty. What we're proposing with AB 381 is to break it up by both the outcome to the animal and what the intent is of the person at the time they are engaged in that conduct, if that makes sense. But with your, Chair, with your permission, can I send it down to Ms. Botello?
Yes. In terms of word pursuing, I believe in how often charging felony one occurs in our department. However, I mean, I do see most, if not cases, charged in our office. It's not very often. It's very cognizant.
Okay, you're coming in and out again, so could you respond again? I believe I heard it's not very often, but I'm not sure what's not very often. So you're just cutting in and out. Could you try it again?
Yes. Our office is very selective in terms of felony prosecutions that we, and so what you're asked about us having a 1 to 4 sentence,
okay,
prosecution.
So we heard when you asked about us being a 1 to 4 sentence, and then we lost you again.
Okay. When you're asking about how often we pursue a 1 to 4 year sentence, what I hear is you're asking how many or how often it is that we pursue felony charges against an individual. My office is very selective from the screening process up to when the case comes to me and my unit in terms of pursuing felony charges, because we are very cognizant of the requirement that the conduct be malicious and willful. So it can't be accidental. It has to have been something that was intentionally done to the animal. In terms of malicious, there's this language that requires some sort of evil intent. So there needs to be some evidence, or at least some existence of evidence, which would cause us to believe that there was this specific intent. It's very rare that we get cases like that. A lot of, the recent cases that have been profiled in the media are examples of this felony, willful and malicious conduct that we've been pursuing. But there are a lot of cases that don't meet that threshold, where we're limited to now just pursuing misdemeanor charges in those instances. I hope that answered your question.
Thank you, Chair. I appreciate it. I have a related follow-up. So it sounds like this is an infrequently used situation where you would apply not only the felony, but pursue 4 years, the maximum. Have you seen, just so we understand the value of moving to 10, increased, or I guess decreased recidivism for those that are charged with 4 years in a felony rather than those that are charged with maybe a lesser number or a lesser offense? Thank you.
The animal cruelty statute as it exists right now is enhanceable. And so it starts out as a misdemeanor. Certain crimes start out as a misdemeanor. Then they're a higher level misdemeanor. And then at some point, they're enhanceable to a gross misdemeanor or a felony as they exist right now. There's that at least. Did I answer your question on that?
Thank you. I just wanted to know if you've seen a reduced incidence of people coming back through your office, right, who have committed animal cruelty when you've pursued felony and 4 years relative to those that aren't charged with 4 years. Thank you.
We have, I don't believe we have, because, we either charge it as a misdemeanor or as a felony. And if I'm just speaking about the felonies, there's not a high level of recidivism in terms of us prosecuting. It's very rare. I can only think of perhaps one instance where an individual was charged with a felony, 1 to 4 year felony case before our office, where they've had a prior animal cruelty or animal abuse conviction.
Thank you. Our next question is from Assemblymember Nadeem.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you for the presentation. So there's this scenario that the pet owner, he is not feeding the pet properly and the pet gets sick, and then he's not even taking it to the vet doctor, and ultimately the pet dies. So where this stands in this bill?
John Jones on behalf of the Nevada District Attorneys Association. I'll point out that failure to act can be punishable under our animal cruelty statute, and it does compound. So considering they're not feeding the animal, they're not engaged in veterinary care, et cetera, we would have to take all of the facts that are presented us to by the investigation and figure out, was this willful and malicious per this bill? If it's not, then was it reckless or knowingly, which based on the facts that you've given me now, it's probably going to be charged as a Category D felony, not the willful or malicious. But there could be facts that lead us to charge it as the Category C, or in this instance B, if the animal dies, willful and malicious. But these are all very fact specific. This isn't a one-size-fits-all approach, and that's kind of our issue with the statute as it's currently written. The range of punishment is so small, and it encompasses such a big degree of conduct that it's hard to appropriately scale the punishment based on the severity of what's going on. And that's why we're asking for a wider range, so that we can appropriately take into account the facts of the case, the severity of the crime, and punish appropriately, if that makes sense.
Thank you.
Off. Okay, thank you for that. So with that, then I would like to follow up on my colleague's question. Expanding the range, are there instances that we're not currently able to capture under the current law?
John Jones, on behalf of the Nevada District Attorneys Association. Chair, with your permission, I'm going to send that down to Agnes, but I want to say that there are instances where we can maybe capture it under our misdemeanor animal cruelty theory. What we're trying to do is expand that due to the seriousness of the actions, and I believe Ms. Patello can give you examples of cases that probably should be charged as felonies, but because of the way the statute's worded now, we can't. And with your permission, I'd like to throw it down to her.
Yes, please.
Okay, thank you. Can't speak to specifics because a lot of our cases are still open in terms of examples, but I'll just give you some scenarios. Right now, we're stuck between charging it as a misdemeanor or as a felony. There's no in between. The addition of the reckless behavior part of the bill is for the purpose of capturing conduct that isn't just a misdemeanor, but doesn't quite rise to the level of felony, malicious, and willful behavior as it's written, right now. And so there's this reckless behavior component that's being introduced by way of AB 381. An example that I can give you would be an individual who leaves an animal in a vehicle for an extended period of time. It's summer, it's 118 degrees out, the vehicle is parked out in the sun, but they leave the air conditioner running. And the car overheats. This owner doesn't check on the animal, on the dog that's left inside of the vehicle. They've taken steps to mitigate the heat exposure by leaving the air conditioning on. But they behaved in such a reckless manner by not checking on their dog for hours and hours and hours on end in the middle of summer, leaving this dog unattended, that we can't charge the felony, malicious, or willful conduct because we don't have any evidence of an evil intent. The pet owner otherwise tried to, mitigate any kind of heat exposure or harm that could be met to the dog, despite leaving it in the heat in a vehicle. But the dog died anyway because of this reckless behavior of, say, not checking up on the dog, not leaving water within, the vehicle such that the dog would have access to it for that extended period of time. There are also pet owners who have tried to conduct their own medical procedures on their pets, and they do so in a very reckless manner. A lot of times there's this docking of tails on certain breeds of dogs, and there have been individuals who have tried to do that type of procedure at home on their pets, resulting in the dogs losing, their tails or having to get the tails amputated, and leading to a lot of suffering to the animal, to the companion pet. And so that conduct doing these procedures on your own at home without the benefit of a trained veterinarian who can assist if something goes wrong, that's reckless behavior. But is there a specific type of intent? Is there a willful, malicious, evil intent to do harm to the dog? No. So it doesn't rise to the level of felony behavior as the statute exists right now. But it certainly isn't just a failure to, give the dog medical aid or bringing it to the vet or providing whatever sustenance and things like that that would warrant misdemeanor behavior. I believe the intent of this bill and the addition of the reckless language to AB 381 is seeking to capture the type of reckless behavior that doesn't amount to felony, willful, and malicious conduct, but results in harm to the animal anyway, because any reasonable person would know that that behavior is reckless and should not be committed upon the animal.
Thank you so much. Our next question is from Assemblymember Moore.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for the presentation. Just like one of my colleagues mentioned, I also have concerns with Section 1, subsection 1 and 2, where the words allows and permits, especially pertaining in your presentation, you mentioned how oftentimes pets are also used against victims of domestic violence when they're living in that situation. And I'm just concerned that by using the words allows and permits, we're going to criminalize a victim of domestic violence, because we're well aware that oftentimes the abusers will turn around and try to blame the victim for why they were abusing them. Maybe they were defending themselves, or they'll simply blame the victim saying they did it. So how are you working on making sure that victims of domestic violence don't get caught up in this?
John Jones, on behalf of the Nevada District Attorneys Association, that is a great question, and the answer is absolutely not. We are aware of that issue in this bill. And if I could first start off by saying, right now, permits is currently in the animal cruelty statute. So we already have something similar to that language in it, but we are very sensitive to that issue, Assembly Member, and we do not currently charge animal cruelty in that situation. But I do understand the concern based on the proposed language. I agree with your sentiment 100%, and that's why we're willing to work with the public defenders and other interested stakeholders to make clear that that's not what we're trying to do.
Thank you. I believe we have a question from Assemblyman Ordlicker.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for your presentation. I'd like to ask about, as you've talked a little bit about the word malicious and adding willful. It's designed to help narrow that but there's still some imprecision, and I gather there have been problems with charges being brought as felony using the word malicious when there really should be misdemeanors. So I'm wondering if we need to do more to make sure malicious, we have a clear sense of how that would be applied, given it's a criminal penalty.
John Jones, on behalf of the Nevada District Attorneys Association, I'll note that malicious is essentially the ultimate criminal intent that we have. Willful and malicious, there's nothing higher than that. But I'm willing to work with you, Assembly Member, if you'd like to hone that language down with respect to the animal cruelty statute.
Thank you for that. And along those lines, I would also like to ask for the definition of, often in this bill, it speaks about torture or cruelty. I personally believe torture is a pretty obvious definition. However, when it comes to cruelty, how do we define cruelty?
John Jones on behalf of the Nevada District Attorneys Association. It's defined in an interesting way in this statute. I'd point you to Section 2 of the bill on page 3, lines 13, 14, and 15. And they use torture and cruelty almost interchangeably, where it says it includes every act, omission, and this gets to Assemblymember Nadeed's question, or neglect whereby unjustifiable physical pain, suffering, or death is caused or permitted. Now, we're asking it to be caused, allowed, or permitted in this proposal, but that's how we use torture and cruelty together in the current version of the statute.
Okay, so then it's not, so I will try not to make grammar corrections, but what we're saying is they are used interchangeably. So cruelty is considered the same as a form of torture.
Essentially, John Jones on behalf of the Nevada District Attorneys Association, essentially that's how it's written now.
Okay, thank you. Just because the term cruelty itself can be very subjective, but knowing that it is considered interchangeably, that helps. Thank you. I don't see any additional questions from members right now, so I will go ahead and open it up for testimony. We'll start here in Carson City with anyone wishing to testify in support of Assembly Bill 381.
Thank you, Chair, members of the committee. For the record, Mike Cathcart, C-A-T-H-C-A-R-T, representing the City of Henderson. I want to thank the sponsor and the stakeholders for bringing the bill. While the city's court does not prosecute the level of crimes in the bill, our police department would investigate these crimes, and the city's animal shelter may be involved in taking custody of the abused animals. Therefore, we are in full support of AB 381 and believe this is good public policy.
Good morning, Chairwoman and members of the committee. Cheyenne Schull, S-H-Y-A-N-N-E, S-C-H-U-L-L, Director of Washoe County Regional Animal Services. And it's my pleasure to be here today in support of Bill 381 in regards to strengthening the penalties with relation to animal cruelty laws. And we do have a friendly amendment that we're working with the bill sponsor on related to Section 4, line 44, related to abandonment. We would like to clarify and clean up the language in that particular section to read, abandoning an animal whether the animal is healthy or maimed, deceased, disabled, or infirm, so that it's not specifically outlining animals that aren't disabled or injured or maimed, those aren't actually being labeled as abandoned. So we're also happy to work with the sponsor on a better definition of abandonment, but overall we support this bill and we are happy to see the strengthening of the penalties associated with this particular bill. And also wanted to mention that within Washoe County in calendar year 2024, we received just over 2,200 calls for animal welfare complaints. Those can range from animals being locked in a hot car, animals being neglected, not fed, to egregious, malicious animal cruelty. And out of those, we only issued 67 citations. And so within our region, we work very progressively on education and helping to mitigate those calls. With the ones that end up being particularly egregious, it is very helpful to have strengthened penalties. Thank you.
Good morning, Chair, committee members. My name is Adrian Hunt, A-D-R-I-A-N-H-U-N-T. I represent Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department. We're in support of AB 381 that will increase the accountability for animal cruelty. We implore the committee to push this bill forward, and we also want to thank the Assemblymember Hardy and co-sponsors for bringing this bill forward. Thank you all.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the committee. Jason Woodard, J-A-S-O-N-W-O-O-D-A-R-D, Nevada Sheriffs and Chiefs Association. We are in support of this bill. We'd like to thank the sponsors for bringing this bill forward. We'd like to particularly call attention to the portion that addresses the harassment, harming, and interfering with police service dogs. The police service dogs do quite a bit for us within our agencies. If you've ever had a chance to be around them, not only do we send them in harm's way oftentimes to save or spare the lives of officers, and civilians. But in addition to that, they're a great resource for us in community outreach. When we're at public events, especially at the Sparks Police Department, we utilize personnel-friendly dogs. And I can't tell you the number of kids and people that love to come up and basically strike up conversations with the handlers and interact with the dogs and get to see the dogs do demonstrations and things of that nature. I can testify to the significance of the impact of when one of those dogs is harmed in service. It impacts the community, it impacts the department, and they're a great resource to us. And we're very excited to see this legislation move forward. Thank you.
Good morning, Chair Miller, members of the committee. Jason Walker, JASON, representing the Washoe County Sheriff's Office, supporting Assembly Bill 381 by providing a Me Too, as this is a good bill.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Members of the committee, for the record, Kelly Crompton, representing the City of Las Vegas, KELLYCROMPTON. I'm here on behalf of our Animal Protection Services Division, and they are in support of this bill as we sometimes interact with these types of instances where we might have to take in that animal. So we are appreciative of the language of this bill and the sponsors. Thank you.
Okay, just kidding.
You're a presenter. Okay. I think we know which side of the bill you're on. Anyone else here for? Would you like to come up? You don't need to sign it. We're all just, this is live entertainment right now. We're all just doing our best. Press the button and then say your name.
Robin Pulido, ROBIN PULIDO. And I identify with this bill because as a teacher, I've had a lot of students for whom the tales they told about things happening to their animals gave you the clue that it was happening to them too. And I just think that an animal has less of a voice as a child. And if children aren't heard, animals are not heard. So I really think that some of these penalties need to be stiffened, and therefore I do support the bill, and I didn't realize I was going to get emotional about that. Thank you for hearing me.
Thank you so much. Anyone else here in Carson City? Broadcasting, will you open the lines, please, for support testimony?
If you would like to testify in support of Assembly Bill 381, please press star 9 or raise hand in your Zoom window now to take your place in the queue. Again, if you would like to testify in support of Assembly Bill 381, please press star 9 or raise hand in your Zoom window now. Caller with the last 3 digits, 148, please press star 6 to unmute your phone. Caller with the last 3 digits, 148, please press star 6. Chair, I believe this caller is having difficulty unmuting. Would you like me to move on to the next and circle back?
Sure, and then we'll take them whenever they are able to connect. So yes, please.
Caller with the last 3 digits, 111, you are unmuted and may begin.
Good morning, Madam Chair and members of the committee. John Wadby, JOHN-WAUDBY. I am a resident here in Las Vegas and the creator of REBA'sBill.org. I come in absolute support of AB 381, REBA's law. The issue of animal abuse has garnered increasing attention and concern from people across the globe and here in Nevada, specifically with the horrific death of Reba the Bulldog here in Las Vegas, who this bill is named after. I reached out to Assemblywoman Hardy shortly after the case of Reba, pleading with her and others to please stiffen penalties for those who harm our fur babies. Animal abuse comes in various forms, ranging from neglect and abandonment to deliberate acts of violence and torture. Animals, who are often defenseless and vulnerable, face unimaginable suffering at the hands of their abusers. The prevalence of such cruelty highlights the urgent need for more stringent measures to combat this issue. Cases such as Reba, where the 9 puppies covered in cleaning material, thrown in a garbage bag, and then a dumpster, or the arrest of 2 individuals last week in Lyon County charged with 133 counts of animal cruelty. One significant step towards combating animal abuse is the passage of AB 381. By increasing the severity of the consequences, such as longer prison sentences, we can send a strong message that animal abuse will not be tolerated in any form in Nevada. For that, I ask that you please do the right thing and pass AB 381 to protect our fur babies, just like the one sitting behind Assemblywoman Hardy. Thank you.
Next caller.
Yes, good morning. This is Jennifer Garrison of Las Vegas, JenniferGarrison. I'm sorry. I really want to express my strong support for AB 381. And I'm very emotional. I'm sorry. Because we need to strengthen the penalties for animal cruelty offenses and the abuse, because it's a very serious crime and very well documented to violence against people as well. As a victim of domestic violence and my animals being hurt, this is very important to me. And I feel strongly that we need to take action. I'm sorry, I'm so emotional. But we need to ensure justice, that it takes place in our community for the safety by holding offenders accountable. Thank you.
Thank you so much, and you have no reason to apologize for being emotional. Thank you for your testimony. Next caller.
Caller with the last 3 digits, 560. Please press *6 to unmute your phone. You may begin. Caller with the last 3 digits, 560. You are unmuted on our end.
Hi. Good morning, Madam Chair and members of the committee. My name is Gina Greisen. I am president of Nevada Voters for Animals. I am in support of this bill. I did send an email a little bit earlier. I'm sorry, can you hear me?
I can, and also, so yes, we can hear you, but also I'd like you to spell your name, please.
Okay, last name is Greisen, Greis, as in Sam, E, N as in Nancy.
Thank you. Proceed.
Okay. I'll read my email, and then I'd like to discuss just some specific cases.
Ma'am, I would say if you emailed us, because you only have 2 minutes, so please, we'll read the email, but please continue with your comments.
Okay. Well, I appreciate the efforts of Assemblywoman Hardy and all of the speakers in support of the bill today. I've been an advocate in Nevada for 20 years. I'm a native Nevadan. What concerns me is that I'm the person that people call when they aren't getting justice in cruelty cases. And in the email, there is an article written by Dana Gentry with the Nevada Current, and it's titled, Wolfson Wants Stiffer Animal Abuse Penalties but Rarely Seeks Prison Time. And I'm very concerned about the number of cases that end in probation, and I'm talking about heinous cases which are detailed, that are willful and malicious, and that are detailed in the article. And I specifically would like to mention a case of a hoarding couple that had over 200 animals, many of which were dead in their vehicle. I was involved in this case. They were arrested in Boulder City. They had multiple dead animals. They had dead animals in their home, and they had dead animals in a hotel room because they were evading animal protection services. I can't think of anything more willful and malicious than to have killed many animals in an effort to avoid inspection by animal protection services. They were charged in Boulder City with, I don't even remember how many misdemeanors, and then they were charged with 16 felonies in Clark County. We just recently had a protest and a press conference to discuss the fact that all those charges are being dropped down to one charge, and the DA is not opposing probation for the couple.
Ma'am,
I'm all for
ma'am,
strengthening.
thank you so much, but your time is up. So thank you so much. Next caller.
Honorable Committee, thank you so much for hearing this bill, and thank you, Assemblyperson Melissa Hardy and her support around her. I want to thank you because I too have seen really clear choices that it was time to increase the punishment and be very specific in what we're laying out. Our laws here in Nevada are antiquated compared to other states around us, and I want this state to be seen as you will live here and you will do the right and courageous things. One caller said that it's been well proven, and it has been well proven, that 90% of really heinous crimes move on then to elderly people, to children, in domestic cases, and by passing this law, again, we're stating you will be found, you will be tried, and you will be treated with very seriously. Too many times people receive a slap on the hands. I want to thank the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police. Without them, we wouldn't be this far. And I'm going to once again say thank you before I start blubbering. Have a great day, and thank you.
Thank you so much for your testimony. Next caller.
If you have recently joined and you would like to testify in support of Assembly Bill 381, please press star 9 or raise hand in your Zoom window now to take your place in the queue. Again, if you would like to testify in support of Assembly Bill 381, please press star 9 now or raise hand in your Zoom window. Follow with the last 3 digits, 031. Please press star 6 to unmute your phone. You may begin.
Hi, Chair Miller and members of the committee. Bob Rilling Smith, that's BOBRILLINGSMITH. I'm with the American Kennel Club. We are in strong support of AB 381. AB 381 is a very well-targeted bill that ensures some of the worst incidents of animal cruelty are sufficiently addressed. We thank Assemblymember Hardy for her leadership here and urge your aye vote. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Next caller.
Caller, you are unmuted and may begin.
Hello, my name is Mary Waltz, MaryWoltz. I'm calling in strong support of AB 381 and the higher penalties. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Next caller.
You are unmuted
Hello?
and may begin.
Yes, my name is Nancy Olds, Nancyolds. Good morning, to the Chair and the Assembly, and thank you, Melissa Hardy. I am pleased that Assembly Bill 381, Reba's bill, has reached this Assembly. We all saw the widespread news about how the sweet young English Bulldog lost her life, left in a plastic bin, duct taped by a dumpster to perish in the high heat. Valiant attempts were made to save her life, to no avail. No pet should ever go through what Reba had to endure until her passing. Let's have justice for Reba. Let's pass this bill in her memory by extending the penalties justifiably. Thank you.
Thank you. Next caller.
Hello, my name is Lisa Schuette, LISASCHUETTE, and I am calling to add my support for Assembly Bill 381, and I appreciate the discussion that has taken place, especially in regards to domestic violence. But I really feel that this is an important bill, and it helps underscore the importance of animal protection, of taking into account intent and cruelty, and I just appreciate this so much. So thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next
Chair,
caller.
there are no other callers choosing to testify in support at this time.
Okay, thank you. Then I'll open it up for opposition testimony, beginning here in Carson City.
Good morning, Chair Miller and members of the Assembly Judiciary. Paloma Guerrero, Paloma Guerrero, on behalf of the Clark County Public Defender's Office. We did submit a conceptual amendment. It was late, so I know y'all don't have it in front of you, but we have three main parts in it. First is having a definition of an unjustifiable killing. If we're talking about increasing the penalty to a B felony and 1 to 10 years in prison, we need to have more guidance about what exactly is encompassed in this, because dogs can mean different things to different people. I view my 7-month-old puppy as my own child. She sleeps on the bed with me, but other dog owners don't feel the same way, and that's totally okay. Our amendment defines an unjustifiable killing as a killing that is not in self-defense to prevent substantial bodily harm to themselves or another, or when an animal is badly injured and requires relief from suffering. An issue that we see with this bill is the disproportionate impact that this could have on people with a lower socioeconomic status that love their pet very much, but can't afford to spend thousands and thousands of dollars on vet bills. That's an important lens to view this bill with. Secondly, this bill establishes a duty to intervene when someone is witnessing animal abuse. Our amendment gets rid of the entirety of Section 1 simply because we cannot have a duty to intervene on an already dangerous, violent situation without increasing the risk of death and substantial bodily harm to human life. When you impose on citizens a duty to intervene on someone that is violently kicking a dog, maybe stabbing a dog, maybe has a gun, we cannot ask that person to put themselves in danger as well. And I know that we've been speaking with the sponsor and Mr. Jones from the DA's office about amending this language, but we don't see a way to eliminate that risk to human life by establishing this duty. And also what was mentioned by Assemblymember Moore, research shows that men who abuse pets are more likely to abuse their female intimate partners. We cannot ask victims of domestic violence who have trouble intervening for themselves to intervene for pets. And the situation that was brought up of someone filming a dog that was being abused, they can already charge them with criminal liability through conspiracy theory. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Good morning. Angela Knott from the Washoe County Public Defender's Office, ANGELAKNOTT. We do agree that those who actually torture animals should face significant penalties. However, AB 381 will also put people in prison for just not acting, not intervening. So far, we can only find one instance where a regular citizen must report, and that is when they know or have reason to believe someone has committed a violent or sexual offense against a child under 12. Failure to report is a misdemeanor in those cases, not a felony. But this is just reporting. It is not asking citizens to intervene. The same can be said for mandatory reporters. When a mandatory reporter fails to report, they face a misdemeanor, not a felony. Lastly, our amendment addresses the increase in penalties provided in AB 381, particularly in page 6, lines 23 through 34. We understand the need to increase the penalties to a Category B felony, but we would like to lessen the sentencing range from 1 to 10 years to 1 to 6. Receiving a Category B felony is different from receiving a Category D felony. The biggest difference is how the defendant is treated in prison. With a Category D, typically your good time comes off that front number, that low number, versus a Category B where you are going to serve your entire front number before you're even eligible for parole or any good time. The defendant will spend a lot longer in prison with a Category B felony than a D. And just for comparison, I think it's important to note that a felony child abuse that doesn't have any enhancements is a Category B felony that carries a 1 to 6 years in prison. Our amendment changes the penalty to be more in line with the child abuse statute. For these reasons, we must oppose AB 381, but we appreciate working with Assemblywoman Hardy. She spoke with us yesterday, and hopefully we can continue working together on a proper amendment. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Is there anyone else here in opposition? Not seeing anyone? Broadcasting, will you open the lines, please?
If you would like to testify in opposition to Assembly Bill 381, please press star 9 or raise hand in your Zoom window now to take your place in the queue. Again, if you would like to testify in opposition, please press star 9 now.
Good morning, dear members of the committee. My name is Yesenia Moya, Yesenia I'm here today to strongly oppose AB 381. While addressing harm to animals is important, increasing incarceration is not the solution. I urge you to consider whether harsher prison sentences are truly the most effective solution to preventing cruelty, or whether they simply offer a short-term punitive response that makes people feel good. The language in this bill is so vague that it increases the risk of innocent people getting caught up in the prison system. Expanding the carceral system perpetuates mass incarceration and does not address the root causes of cruelty and may in fact lead to worse outcomes. Research consistently shows that many individuals who commit acts of animal cruelty have underlying mental health conditions, histories of trauma, or are entangled in cycles of violence themselves. A study published in Psychiatry, Psychology, and Law from 2016 found that animal cruelty often correlates with conduct disorders and untreated mental health challenges, which are best addressed through rehabilitation rather than punitive sentencing. Acts of animal cruelty are tied to domestic violence and child abuse, thus emphasizing the need for holistic intervention rather than incarceration. In jurisdictions where heavy enhancements have been imposed on animal cruelty, such as Orange County, New York, we have seen an increase in recidivism rather than a decrease. Meanwhile, alternative models have demonstrated success in lowering reoffense rates through therapy, community service, and education. Restorative justice programs that require offenders to engage in community-based animal welfare education, as supported by the National Institute of Justice from 2020, have shown significantly better outcomes than incarceration. Nevada law already allows for sentence enhancements to cases of animal cruelty, so why do we even need more punitive measures? If we already have the tools to enhance penalties, adding another layer of punishment is unnecessary. Instead of increasing mandatory sentencing, Nevada should invest in mental health and behavioral intervention programs, restorative justice models that involve offenders in community-based education and accountability processes, therapeutic court programs, and focusing on rehabilitation. If the goal is to truly prevent animal cruelty,
your time
then
is
we
up.
need evidence-based solutions.
Thank you so much. Next caller, please.
Anne Marie Grant, ANNEMARIE, calling in opposition to the bill. People have become desensitized to human suffering due to constant exposure to news and events regarding animal cruelty, making it easier for people to feel more empathy for animals rather than human beings. I urge you to oppose this bill. Thank you.
Thank you. Next caller.
Chair, there are no other callers choosing to testify in opposition at this time.
Thank you. Then I will open it up for neutral testimony, beginning here in Carson City. Not seeing anyone. Broadcasting, will you open the lines?
If you would like to testify in neutral for Assembly Bill 381, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Again, if you would like to testify in neutral, please press star 9 now. Chair, there are no callers choosing to testify in neutral at this time.
Thank you so much. Then I will close testimony and invite the bill presenters back for any final comments.
Melissa Hardy for the record, and I just want to thank the committee for your time and attention today and for all those who participated in the hearing. And as was mentioned, we have had conversations with the public defenders and some amendments that we're working on in language and addressing some of the questions that were brought up, and we will continue to do that. And I just wanted to say in closing that the reason for this hearing today comes from an unspeakable tragedy. The story behind this legislation is heartbreaking and difficult to tell. Passing this bill will show that Nevada is a state that values and protects life, all life. And we stand up for those that are voiceless and can't advocate for themselves. We can be a state that prioritizes and values animal safety and welfare by holding those accountable who knowingly and willingly inflict abuse, neglect, and harm on innocent animals that can lead to their death. And so I ask for your support of this legislation, and together we can ensure justice for Reba. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Assembly Member. And with that, I will go ahead and close the hearing on Assembly Bill 381. Next, we have public comment. Again, anyone wishing to make public comment, just a reminder that it's not to comment on either of the bills that we heard today, but for anything else under the purview of this committee. So if anyone would like to approach and begin here in Carson City.
Good morning, Chair, and good morning, Council. Jessica Glover, Jessica, Glover, Glover. This morning was about how we're going to treat others as human beings as well as animals. And I just ask of you to follow your heart and to do the right thing. Thank you.
Not seeing anyone else here in Carson City. Broadcasting, will you open the line?
If you would like to provide public comment, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Again, if you would like to provide public comment, please press star 9 now.
Anne Marie Grant, ANNEMARIE, sister of Thomas Purdy, murdered by Reno Police and Washoe County Sheriff's Office during a mental health crisis. He was hogtied for over 40 minutes and asphyxiated to death. Today, I'd like to talk about another victim of police in Washoe County, 18-year-old Micaiah Lee, who was killed by Sparks police officers Ryan Patterson and Eric De Jesus. Patterson fired 5 shots.
Excuse
De Jesus
me.
fired 2 shots. Oh, I won't say their names. Yeah, okay.
Yes, again, because I know I've reminded multiple times. Continue without names, please. Victim names are okay. Continue.
Oh, okay. Thanks for the guidance. Excuse me, sorry, it's written in my thing. Killed Jorge Moreno Aguirre, 7/28/16, and the other officer is also a two-time community member killer. He was one of 3 cops who shot and killed Jose Dominguez on 4/28/2019, yet less than a year before he would go on to kill Micaiah. City of Sparks police were called to take a suicidal teenager they knew to be severely mentally ill into custody for his own safety, but within minutes of approaching him, shot him dead. City of Sparks officers had the time and opportunity to assess the situation and employ the tactics and accommodations recognized by nationally accepted police practices and training to peacefully resolve the situation, specifically by using de-escalation techniques, communication, and crisis intervention. If the officers had utilized proper training in the fundamental principles of maintaining a covered position to calmly communicate with an unarmed, emotionally disabled person rather than hysterically screaming commands, loudly cursing, and sadistically using an attack dog, and cruelly rushing the teenager with lights flashing and sirens blaring, this incident would not have happened. Thank you.
Thank you. Next caller.
Hi, my name is Brittany Brussel, Brittany, Brussel, Brussell. I'm a native Nevadan residing in Las Vegas. In relation to animal abuse, seeing as I've been here my whole life, I've seen how it's not been taken seriously. We're failing to make any relevant changes, especially in the city of Las Vegas and the jurisdictions in Clark County, Henderson, North Las Vegas. I think while supporting anything to strengthen animal penalties, I think that we're missing on the fact that other instances such as permanent disfigurement, loss of function, amputation, blindness, injuries that require long-term veterinary care, those are also, yep.
I just want to make sure that you're not commenting on the bill.
Okay, so
per the rules of the committee, we cannot.
General terms.
Per the rules of the committee, we cannot comment on the bill during public comment, but for other issues under the purview of the committee.
Okay, all right. Well, thank you then. No further comment.
Thank you so much. Next caller.
Chair, the public line is open and working, and there are no other callers to provide public comment at this time.
Okay, thank you. Well, I'd like to thank everyone who joined and participated today in the meeting, and thank members again for your excellent attention and questions. And with that, I will adjourn, and I will see you all back at 8 a.m. tomorrow morning. Actually, I won't. I'm presenting a bill. So I'll see you at some point after 8 a.m. tomorrow morning. Thank you.